Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Trekyards. He, of course, is Commander Cockings.
He is Captain Foley and
We have
guest.
an
I am Bill Krause.
awesome special guest. Bill Krause is joining us.
Although I feel like he has an admiralty as well. That should be pointed out here.
Oh, I would say so, yeah, absolutely. If you guys didn't know, Bill Krause is the designer of the Titan for Picard, as well as many other things. And we're going to talk to him today about just that, how he got started with Picard. And I know that Terry Matalas was a fan of your work, and that goes a long way for a showrunner to tap you on the shoulder. So
And it's not just that, but this is a kind of inspirational story of fan, very talented professional fan, let's be fair, turned, the real article, and now there are Titan shirts and Stargaze. These are things that, out everywhere. So congrats, of course.
Thanks.
You joined the ranks.
Yeah, from the beginning, I think it was really just a friendship that started with Doug Drexler and John Eves back when I was starting to post my models on Facebook and other social media sites, and really got noticed by them, and Doug specifically for use of my artwork in their calendar, the Ships of the Line calendar. This is back in like 2016, 17. And John Eves has been a great fan of mine forever, and I've been a great fan of his, of course. But he had been trying forever to get me into Star Trek in some way. I think it was back in like 2019. He actually had me put together a portfolio for what was going to be Picard season 1, and they wanted to see my stuff on the show. That didn't happen, but when season 2 rolled around with the whole new production staff with Terry Matalas and Dave Blass, again, my name was brought up in probably some conversation about starships. And I think it was John Eves who was probably what I think was selling them an idea of the self-illuminated registry on a starship rather than spotlights. And he had pointed out one of my designs, I think, was the Endurance, that used that kind of technique of glowing letters on the back of a ship rather than this old-fashioned spotlight system. So they all, I think, collectively looked at Bill Krause Instagram, and from there, like, oh, he makes models. So I think Dave was really interested in me building models specifically for the show, season 2 of Picard, and then tapped me to do the gold-plated stargazers that you see in the red room for one shot.
You say portfolio, so you're obviously known for a broad range, but for a good chunk of time, sort of TMP-ish era ships. So did you portfolio new concepts or hand over, vintage, as it were, ships to then maybe be in a future show? Was that all fresh stuff you put together?
No, for season 1, John just asked me for a portfolio of just my work, and I wasn't really specific to a design. It was just, what do I do? So I basically had all these photographs of finished models and designs. So that was the portfolio at that time. And that's all they ever really looked at. And even in season 3, they looked again, do you have a portfolio? And I just have what I've already built. And from that was where Terry picked out, what he wanted for season 3. But that's another story.
now, I've known you for a number of years. We hang out at Wonderfest all the time, which is great, by the way, that I knew you before Star Trek. Now, did you just start with model building, like kind of well, it's not really kit bashing. It's more just scratch built stuff. Or did you? I know you do a lot of like orthos and stuff as well now. But what started you in this whole thing of doing starships?
It goes way back to when I first started building models as a kid back in the 70s. And I built everything. I had the original AMT model kits of the Star Trek stuff. And then I really got into Star Wars and Battlestar Galactica because there was more of that available for kids to build different designs of. Of course, Star Wars, there's everything you can make. But Star Trek, you just had the Enterprise, and Romulan ship and the Klingon ship. And it was kind of limited to what you had to play with. But and I really didn't get back in the hobby until after I was through college and married and had kids, and they got out of high school, and I got back in the hobby and had all this pent up design anxiety of things I wanted to see in Star Trek that I never got to see. I wanted to see other ships of the fleet. I wanted to see the light cruisers and medium cruisers and all the background ships, not just the Enterprise. So I was always sketching ideas for different things. And at that point, one point when I got free time in front of the workbench, I go, well, I can just build anything I want. Let's just go for broke. So I built the Shangri-La was my first kind of design, and it really had no formal sketch. It was just basically just notes and scribbles on paper, and I just kind of just free-formed this thing back in 2014, 2015, just to get my feet wet back in the hobby, and condensing all these years of looking at all the other fan design things and just kind of all happening at one point. I had many more ideas, but this is what kind of collected in one form. It became the Shangri-La.
And I Ironically, the Shangri-La is what became the Titan, which is awesome. Your first one.
When Stuart, I have a question. Well, you are experienced model maker, Stuart. I am just man looking at pretty things. But I feel like your builds, Bill, are on the extremely high end of the spectrum, and then obviously the picture you take are on the extremely high end of the spectrum. How do you go to that level where it feels studio quality? You know, these ILM people back in the day building, or even potentially a little bit bigger, better with the fine, minutiae of 3D printing. How do you go to that level of quality? And Stuart, would you agree he's in that top echelon, or is that just because
I
it's
would
just so
say
damn
so.
pretty? Okay, how do you go that far logically?
I have a feeling he'll kind of downplay his work a little bit right here.
See, that the ILM guys, that was the inspiration that you looked at when you were looking at models and how it was being built and structurally being built as a studio model with armatures and lighting and all that kind of stuff. And I remember getting magazines. The Cinefex magazine was a big thing for behind the scenes of movie making. Of course, I went into filmmaking myself and ran my own production company. So I have all that background in photography and video and editing and lighting and that kind of stuff as part of that. So I just kind of combined my model making and my profession into one thing. And now that I'm retired, I can have full range to do whatever I want with that. So it's great fun.
You said fan-inspired stuff. Well, fan stuff really inspired you. How big a part did FASA, like the FASA ships, have in that?
Not
Because-
a lot.
No?
I didn't really like a lot of the FASA designs. It was part of the anxiety of seeing things that were being done professionally for Star Trek, like FASA. I go, that's just a cut and paste fleet. I mean, I could do better than that with my eyes closed. I shouldn't say that, but that was what brought me to designing my own stuff. Was like, I can do better than that, rather than just rearranging existing parts. Think outside the box and make it look Star Trek, but add your own aesthetic into it and design a new language that you can then employ to other designs rather than just using the same what's on the plate, rearrange it a little bit. Hey, it's Star Trek.
Yeah. And as you said too, I mean, just using the parts that are there already, you actually streamline them. You change the forms a little bit, but keep the overall appearance. Now, I know you're big into World War II stuff, so what kind of inspirations do you get for your nacelle designs and things like that? I know planes are involved somewhat.
Exactly. I mean, you look at a plane fuselage without the wings, and that's a nacelle. I mean, like with the spinner, that's the Bassard. And you look at the form of how that is tapered and aerodynamically shaped. And you can look at Stukas and P-51s and P-38s and all those kind of planes that have this very aero-looking, beautiful form, a contour, and take the wings off, make the front nose cone a glowing Bassard, and you've got a nacelle. And just adding little vents, which are already there, streamlining that a little bit. And in my workshop, I've got overhead hanging in my ceiling, all my son's big 1/18 scale models of I think there's a Corsair and a P-38 and F-104 Starfighter and a Stuka. And just look up and go, oh, there's an engine.
That's awesome.
So back to Picard then. Had you done any or many TNG or even post TNG era ships, post Nemesis, before you even got the chance to Picard, or would that have been a brand new era for you?
It was a brand new era for me. I mean, I built an Enterprise D kit years ago. That was as far as I ever got in a TNG. It just wasn't an era that excited me. Being a fan of the 60s and 70s, I mean, the original TOS and movie era was for me, and I kind of wanted to expand that universe. Eventually, I'm working towards that universe. Actually, I leapfrogged over to Picard, but there's a lot of eras in between movies and TNG that, there's 100 years of stuff that we haven't seen that I kind of want to explore. So I'm always looking for eras.
So if Dave obviously approached you, so obviously we know what did happen, but let's go back to the right at the being approached. Was then the idea in your head to, okay, I've been hired on to Picard, let's say season 1 or even 2, they're asking for 5 new post-TNG ships. Was that going to be all, right, let's sit down, spend hopefully several months designing 5 ships, get improved into 3D? Or were you always going in with, I've got these 10 TMP ships, these are designs I want just to alter to become TNG, which is sort of what happened. But were you mentally, best case, going to design new things, or very much just TMP up?
Well, they never came to me for any design ideas at all, other than for season 2 when they were asking for a TOS era Stargazer. That was the first time they asked me for a design after building or asking for me to build them the 3 ready room models, which are the new Sagan Stargazer, rebuild the old original TNG Constellation Stargazer. And I said, well, while you're at it, can you design a predecessor, a TOS predecessor? And I go, now you're in my ballpark. I can design stuff for TOS, and I designed the Radiant class. But for Picard season 3, there was no, hey, can you design a ship? And I'll get to that later. But it was basically Terry saying, I like Shangri-La, let's use it. And I go, oh, okay.
Was that a hope though when you got that email from Dave that was going to be, or season 1? That would what you would have wanted to have done. Say they'd brought you in as lead designer. Would you have done, like I said, the fresh TNG approach, or taken existing designs and modified them? Where would you want to have gone if there had been you're now hired as lead designer?
Well, right. If I knew what the era was, I would have designed for that era, of course, and given them ideas for that era, looking at what was already established, looking at season 1 with the John Neves design and extrapolating that into the 21st century, 25th century type stuff. But that request didn't come through in Picard 1 or 2.
But I can imagine getting the sort of like ready to join the family mode, like, I can sketch 10 things. But obviously, not quite this time. But hey, next time.
Yeah. Well, for season 2, when they did the Radiant, I gave them 6 different ideas. I had really no idea what direction they wanted to take that very first Stargazer. It didn't have to have 4 engines. I gave them options that had 2 engines. But I gave them a wide range of ideas and say, just pick something. We can go from that. And it was like a weekend to do this. And by Monday morning, like, pick option number A, we're going with that. And okay. So Hollywood, you gotta move, and there's no second guessing.
Now, I know we're going to talk about this in more detail later, but I want to kind of give a teaser for people that there are other videos coming, guys. Taking the Shangri-La class and turning it into the Titan also involves redesigning the nacelles and other things to make it more era appropriate. Did you have a hand in that, or were they done by somebody else? What was the process for that one?
Well, when Shangri-La was selected as the hero ship for 3, that was a surprise for me because, of course, you mentioned that Terry was a fan of the Shangri-La, and between season 2 and 3, he had asked me to build him his own model of the Shangri-La because I really liked the model. So I started to build him a scratch build Shangri-La, which I called the Mark II. I added some improvements to that, adding little winglets and the between the saucer and the little cutouts and some other little things. And he had been looking at. Actually, he had hinted that he would want to put it in the show. I'm thinking, wow, as a background, probably like a prop, be like Van Jordy and like. Yeah. But then one day I got an email from Dave saying, "Hey, we're working on this model for Terry. Can we see what this looks like with Picard era engines?" And I had some extra nacelles from the Stargazer from season 2, so I photoshopped that as a photo mock-up over my model of the Shangri-La. And sent it back to them that night, like a Saturday night. And by Sunday morning, I got the email from Dave saying, we're good to go on this. I had no idea what that meant. Of course, then finding out that this was the hero ship for season 3. And they wanted the digital files and assets for Monday morning, which didn't exist because it was
files, yeah,
as a scratch-built, hand-built one-off. Yeah. So I basically had to send Dave or Doug Drexler photographs of the Shangri-La model from every angle, and he rebuilt it digitally as best he could in a week. No second pass. It was like, we're going with it. Go. And I have been sketching ideas to improve it, to change this, change that, thinking there'd be more of a give and take. But they were done with me. They said, photograph your ship. We're gone. Thanks.
The full story later, but I'll ask the last question with you. Had you been able to like quantum leap back into your old body to that moment where they say, do the kit bash of the cells in the body, would you have sneakily photoshopped some more tweaks to the main body that night, which you could totally do? They probably wouldn't notice in the most abstract way, and then you can get some more improvements to TNG into it. Would you have gone back and tweak that?
Possibly, but that had to go through Doug, who had to rebuild everything that he was seeing.
Exactly. So just change that to be fresh.
But he went and did his own things too. So who knows how much it would have filtered through.
That is production.
But when I built the model of this Titan, there I tweaked things that is not part of the design.
I think we'll leave it there, though. So thank you for joining us again, Bill. I know we had you a few years ago, and it's awesome to see you back. And we have obviously more to talk about with Bill, so make sure you're subscribed and do all the things you need to do. Comment down below as well. But we want to see you guys soon, because there's more Bill coming.
Yell out for Star Trek Legacy, because, Bill might get hired on that.
Just saying. So until next time, I'd like to thank Bill Krause for joining us. And
Thank you.
of course, say goodbye to Commander Cockings.
And Captain Foley. Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.